This is a brother that's got so many books which are bestsellers, so many lectures that are online that's been followed by thousands and thousands, if not millions, of people worldwide, okay, brothers and sisters. And I'm so gassed to understand that we have this brother with us. And you know, we need education. And just as I bring our brother on, just as I bring, you know, when we're doing things like this, today in 2022, then you know what has happened to us as a people? What has happened to us? Brothers and sisters, what are we going to do, man? We're in a state. We're in a state. But you see, what gives me hope is when I see my Professor Kabba. Brothers and sisters, this is our brother. Can't wait to hear from this brother. Professor Kabba, how are you doing, my king?
Hotep and peace to my brother. Assalamu alaikum to my brother.
Walaikum salam, my brother. It's been too long since you've been on the platform, brother. Too long. We've missed your face. We missed your smile. And more importantly, we missed your guidance, King. Just like I said to Professor Small, my big brother, I don't know if words in English language could convey how we feel about you, your work that you've done, the sacrifices that you've made, your wife's made, and your children. Because also, you know, by you not being there all the time with your family, because you're out there teaching and giving of yourself. Brother, I want to say it right now. We honor you, we thank you, and we bow to you, my king.
And I appreciate your appreciation, my brother. And all the work that we do, all the things that we do is for us as a people. And I am so honored to be able to speak to my family there at UK and all of the followers and all of the people that continue to support your great work, and to all of the staff and students of the West Side School. I just have great respect for what it is that we're doing. And we now, since the last time we were together, so many different things have happened. You know, the world is changing geometrically,
brother,
not arithmetically. And the world is changing. And as we have been told, the arc of the moral universe, the arc of Ma'at, is long, but sometimes it bends towards justice.
Yes, sir.
And we have to keep on keeping on what it is that we're doing, brother. That is the key. Family, we must just keep on keeping on. Our ancestors did not do what they did to leave us by ourselves. They are with us constantly, and they are guiding us constantly. And I often say that a prophet is not a psychic. A prophet is a good historian. Because when you know what happened in the past, you can interpret what's happening in the present, and you can predict what's about to happen in the future. And I have a webinar series that we just completed #2 the other day. And it deals with the origin and development of the Caucasoid. And to look at them geographically, to look at them historically, to look at them psychologically, to look at the role of melanin. And it is just something that we have to look at and understand. I was once told by Kwame Ture, the great Stokely Carmichael, the closer that you get to the creator, the closer the devil is going to get to you.
Woo! Woo!
And what we see happening now, my brother Muhammad, what we see happening now is they're realizing that their time is up. And that's something that we have to realize. And I'm not speaking angrily, I'm speaking scientifically. And my presentations and my webinars, my first two, were meant to lay the groundwork for us to understand what's happening. And it is very clear what's happening to us as a people all around the world. And as I look at what is happening in Ukraine,
yes, yes,
I realize more than ever that, you see, there is a difference between sympathy and empathy.
yes.
Sympathy is when you feel for somebody. You feel their feelings, their anguish, their sadness, their anger. But you have never experienced what they're experiencing.
Yes, sir.
Empathy is when you feel somebody's anguish, pain, suffering, because you have experienced it.
Yes, sir.
The example I give is if you were to visit somebody's mother or father who is just transcended and joined the ancestors, and you bring your mother and father with you to the funeral, you can only have sympathy for that person because you have never experienced what it's like to lose a parent.
Yes, sir.
But if you should go to somebody's parent's funeral and you have parents who have joined the ancestors, then you have empathy.
Empathy, yes.
Because you know what it feels like.
Come on, brother.
To have that feeling, to have lost somebody.
Yes, sir.
There is nobody on the planet that could so clearly have empathy for Ukrainian people. Now, I'm putting aside many of the accusations of their racism, of all the things that they do. I'm going to put that to the side for a moment because I want to focus in on the point I'm trying to make.
Yes, sir.
There is no one that could have more of an empathetic feeling for the Ukrainian people than Black people worldwide.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Who else has actually had their land bombed? Maybe not the same as the technology of today, but who else has had their family separated?
Yes, sir.
Who else has had to take their wives, their women, their daughters, and their children to the borders in order for them to return back home to fight for their land than Black people? We know that feeling.
We know that feeling.
We know what it is like to be separated from our families. The only difference between what's happening today and what happened to us then and continues to happen to us today, continues to happen, is the fact who came to our aid. Wasn't nobody giving us hundreds of millions of dollars. Nobody was giving us weapons to fight these individuals that came to destroy our family.
Teach, my brother, teach.
Who else knows this feeling but us? And it's important that we have a worldview as an African people, along with having a Black first view.
Yes.
Of what's happening. I am Black first. Everything that I think, everything that I try to accomplish, I think like Malcolm X once said, I think like a brother or sister on the corner of our communities, wherever it may be, in UK or in Holland or in France or in Germany, the 125th Street in Harlem or Detroit or Los Angeles. I always keep that mentality in my mind, that never forget where I came from.
Teach on this, King.
And that whatever decisions I come to in my life is in the interest of our people and not just the chosen few that got some bucks up in their pocket. And so we as a people have got to look at the times that we're living in, understand them, and do something about it. Because what's happening now between Russia and Ukraine. And I looked at this specifically at the webinar that I just did this past Friday. They were doing this to each other before they even knew Black folk existed in the world.
Absolutely.
They were doing this in the ice mountains of the Caucasus. They were doing this in Russia. They were doing this in Ukraine. They were doing this in Kazakhstan. They were doing this all over the world to themselves. What's happening between Russia and Ukraine? These are brothers fighting each other. They're related to each other DNA-wise. They're the same people, but they as a people have gotten so arrogantly ignorant with their stuff that they have now as a people imploded. And they are like the dog that chases its tail to bite it. And then when it bites it, it screams.
Yes, sir.
Because it never realized that it was chasing itself to destroy itself. Family, we have to get ourselves together as we move forward. And I believe that education, which comes from the word educare, or to educe, it means to draw out of us.
That's right.
Not to put in.
To bring out.
And that's the difference between the African paradigm and the Western paradigm.
Teach, my king, teach us.
It's the difference between the sun philosophy and the ice philosophy. And the concept is, as Africans looking at nature, the natural role of education is to bring out in us the wisdom that we were born with. The Western perspective is to control, contain, and put in people knowledge and wisdom.
Wow. My king, I don't want to stop your flow because you're going into the ruts, the crux of it. Two quick things, brother. Forgive me for coming in on this, okay, brother? Because now you're getting into the core subject. Sister Samira, are you there, sis? Fantastic. Brothers and sisters, as we getting into the crux of things now, Sister Samira is there. If you've got questions that you'd like to ask to our esteemed keynote speaker, Samira is analyzing all the questions. It's easy for the sister to see the questions if you put it in the Q&A box. Am I correct, Samira?
Yes, please. Thank you, Brother Andrew. So comments and feedback in the chat box, please, family. But any questions, please pop them in the Q&A box. Please, please, please. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you for that, Samira. And Lady Ma'at, are you there? I'm not too sure if Lady Ma'at is joining us this week because she's our resident expert when it comes to education. And I think that she may be having a conversation. Are you intending to have a conversation today with Professor Kabba?
I am listening intently to Professor Kabba, and I certainly would like to ask some questions that kind of looks at the bigger picture of things, really. Because often when we look at education, we focus on the day-to-day in the classroom or the university lecture room. But I think we've got to start looking bigger. And I know Dr. Kabba talks about education on a bigger scale. So yes, I've got some things I'd like to ask. And
no worries, sister. We bring you in. We bring you back in a second because I can't wait. I like to be a fly on the wall, just listening to yourself and Professor Kabba. Honestly, brothers and sisters, this is a day that if you love people, if you've got loved ones around you, call them. Tell them to register right now because you're going to hear words and wisdom shared by Professor Kabba. It's just now getting into the core. But Professor Kabba, you said something very, very important just then. I'm going to play you something which is literally just about 1 minute, 30 seconds. And I would like your view on this as you go deeper now into your subject matter, my beautiful brother. As you know, you're an author of several books on the market. All of them are bestsellers. But Professor Kabba, what have you got to say about this little clip I'm going to play you right now?
Did you know that the American education system was modeled after the German education system, which was literally designed to destroy the concept of free will in its citizens' minds? That's not even my opinion. That is literally what the person who spearheaded the German education system said. Towards the end of the 1700s, present-day Germany had invented the Prussian method of education, which was introduced by a man named Johann Fichte, who said, and I quote, "Education should aim at destroying free will, so that after pupils are thus schooled, they will be incapable throughout the rest of their lives of thinking or acting otherwise than as the schoolmasters would have wished." Germans became interested in destroying free will after they were defeated in battle in 1806. The Prussian emperor was concerned about the terrible defeat done by Napoleon in 1806. His concern was not that Prussian forces had been defeated, but that Prussian soldiers had acted as individuals and not as a unit. The new education system would create the unit that he had in mind. Now see, the primary goals of this system were not intellectual training, but rather conditioning the students for obedience, subordination, and collective life. They lost this battle against Napoleon. They created this education system. And years later, they got their revenge against Napoleon and beat them in battle. Soon after that, countries from all over the world became interested in the Prussian method of education. American politician Horace Mann, best known as the father of American education, literally traveled to Europe to study the Prussian model of public education. He was seeking a way to change unruly children into disciplined citizens. That system that he brought back from Germany still exists today. What do you think? Does it seem like our education system is designed to turn us into obedient citizens? I mean, now that I'm thinking about it, we sat in rows and columns and had assigned seats. Some of us wore uniforms. We had to say the Pledge of Allegiance. We're all tested on the same subjects, despite having different interests. From a very young age, we are introduced to and forced to become okay with this concept of authority, which is the power to enforce obedience. Now, clearly, there are pros to having a public education system, but I do think that we should ask ourselves, is this education or is it indoctrination? Cool, we're being taught, but what are we being taught and why? What is this teaching optimizing us to be? To everyone who got bad grades or often found themselves in detention, maybe it wasn't that you were unable to learn, maybe you were just unable to be controlled. The only thing that I regret is not learning about this while I was still in school, because I would have loved to walk up to one of my teachers, look them in the eye and ask them.
Oh, I'll stop it there. Professor Kabba, you was just going into that element of being controlled by me. So, continue your theme, brother, but also if you can also touch on, do you agree with that, sister? Disagree? Is she on the same line? Is she on the right path? Because you're someone who lived and worked in that system day in, day out, from kindergarten right the way up, brother. Please.
Very interesting. Just to give background to myself.
Please.
I started teaching formally in August of 1977. And so we're looking at 45 years in the system so far. I've taught every grade. I've taught every subject, including postgraduate college, which is people going for their advanced degrees. What that system was describing, if you took the concepts of its origins from Europe and placed it in current day, there were students like this, like the sister said, she wished that she had known this when she was young. To be able to go up to a teacher and to challenge them. What's important for us to understand that here in the United States, I'm not sure what is happening in other parts of the world, but there were generations that grew up that were post-civil rights here in the United States. Basically 65, 1970, 1965, 1970, moving on up. And within the students, myself included, being exposed to the great scholars of my time, there was a kickback. There was a fight back in the system that they just couldn't talk to us any way they wanted to anymore. So they created what we call special education.
Woo!
To
Okay.
take those students.
Yes,
That's why
sir.
I tell people frequently that if I were in the system today, I would be in special ed.
Wow, brother.
Because I always fought back.
Wow.
And special ed was designed. And what now has happened is that this next step to totally control, contain the children is charter schools. And to understand what charter schools are doing as it relates to, remember when the pirates were stealing Africans, what was it that they asked from the government? What did the government give them that gave them permission to invade Africa and India and lands of melanated people? They're called charters. You see, the public school cannot sell to private.
Yes, sir.
But if public is sidestepped into charter, charter can become private. And so what they've come to realize is the fact that the Black community cannot be controlled. Now, here's some advantages if we take advantage of what's happening. Homeschooling. Homeschooling is an option now. And it's not because they wanted us to be able to homeschool our children. It's that they wanted to take their children away from the overall system.
Yes, sir.
But if we take advantage of this concept and we begin to homeschool. Now, when I say homeschool, I realize that for so many of our community members, as it relates to public school, many of our parents work. There's no way they can homeschool their children. So what I do is I organize homeschooling networks. And I identify schools that can become hubs for those homeschoolers.
Yes, sir.
We have to organize this into understanding how we can take the system and use it to our best advantage.
Yes, sir.
The evidence of what the sister was saying as it relates to controlling and containing the minds of students. The only thing that I offer as evidence is look at what's happened to the system. One of the most important psychological things that they did to control the minds of the children ultimately was the testing. And there is no testing method more inferior to the creative critical mind than multiple choice. Because they're telling you, here's my question. I'm only giving you 4 answers. Can you imagine that you ask, they ask you a question. For instance, how many continents are there on the planet Earth? Okay.
Yes, sir.
And they give you 1, 8, 9, 12. Suppose you put down none of them are correct because Europe isn't a continent.
Woo! Woo! Come on.
You would get the answer wrong.
Come
Although
on.
you're right. Because in geography, you teach something very simple. And I've taught geography. Geography says that a continent is a large landmass surrounded on all sides by water.
Teach, my brother.
Europe is not that large of a landmass, although it could be considered a large landmass, but it's connected to Eurasia.
Yes.
It can't be a continent by the way in which you've defined it. So then what is Europe? Well, let's go back into geography definitions. A peninsula is a large landmass surrounded on 3 sides by water.
Yes, my king.
Europe is a peninsula, like Saudi Arabia is a peninsula.
Peninsula.
But if you were to answer that question outside of the 4 choices they gave you and told the truth, you'd be marked wrong.
So are you saying then that we are being programmed to think illogical then?
You're being programmed to think the way the oppressor wants you to think. And the oppressor is illogical because those who would wish to oppress you must tell you a lie in order for you to believe it, in order for you to form the habit, so that in the earlier segment where you showed that statue of the Jesus the Christ,
yes, sir,
and there were Africans kneeling down kissing it.
Yes, sir.
That is the result of Western education. That's the result of it. Even if that were a black statue, I'd have a problem with it. So it's not that it's a white man.
Yes, sir. Yes,
it's that it's the whole concept of that savior is an illusion.
An illusion.
But someone else's illusion can become your reality if you believe it.
Yes, my king.
And so what the sister is saying and what we have to do is to understand that when we said earlier that the natural way of education, and you see, there's something else I'd like to say about the African method of education. There's something else I'd like to say about the African-American curriculum that I developed. When you look at the books that I've written, when you look at the way in which I teach, there really isn't an African curriculum. It's nature's curriculum that the original human being embraced to teach the children.
Yes, sir.
We're talking about cosmic knowledge. We're talking about natural knowledge.
Yes, sir.
It just so happened that Africans started the educational system millions of years ago and transmitted it from generation to generation. And in so doing, they developed a natural way of looking at the world. And now we're not. I'll give you another example. The 2 V's that we've been experiencing.
Yes.
Over these past 2 years. The virus and the vaccine.
Yes, sir.
The virus is nature. The vaccine is human. What happened over these past 2 years is that the system that came before us spent so much time on the virus and made it seem like the vaccine was the answer. The answer, the virus was nature. The vaccine was human. I told people for the past 2 years, don't let them make you keep your eye on the vaccine. Keep your eye on the virus.
Yes. Good
because
teaching.
that's what's going to let you know what's going on.
Good teaching.
This is what you deal with the magician. You see, to the African, there was no such thing as what we perceive to be magic. Magic is a trick. It's a sleight of hand. To the Magi, to the African Magi, they had a word they call Heka.
Heka.
H-E-K-A. And Heka meant will.
Yes.
That you will something to happen. And that is what the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey meant when he said, up, you mighty race. You will accomplish what you will.
Come on, my big brother.
Our ancestors on the plantations of the Caribbean, Central South America, the United States, the colonies, throughout the world, what our African ancestors did is they willed their freedom. They did not hope one day it would just happen. They willed it.
Willed it.
And when they willed it, it came into existence through their sheer will and power of their will. And what I ask us as a people today is, what do you will? We talk about educating our children, but are we? Are we really teaching the children? Nature. Nature is our teacher. Nature taught us how to talk. Nature taught us about the Creator.
Yes, sir.
Nature taught us. Everything that we know, we return back to nature. That's why I say, don't worry about the vaccine. They'll come and go. It's the virus that is permanent. For as long as there's been human beings, for as long as there's been organic life, plants have viruses. Animals have viruses. Virus is what they call the fallen angel, and scientists call the free radical. It is that one aspect of nature that decided not to go along with what nature was saying.
Yes.
And so what we're experiencing now, right now, is that there's a battle. And here in the United States, and I'm not sure what's happening in other parts of the world, but you're hearing this debate about CRT. It's called critical race theory.
Yes, Lady Adele's been speaking about this over the last few weeks. Yes.
Okay. Nothing could be more ignorant and wrong than talking about you're not going to teach critical race theory to children. Critical race theory is a special legal class taught to law students in advanced law school in law school. You don't teach children CRT. You can't teach CRT. It doesn't exist in that form. Yet they've got everybody believing that it's CRT. And then they now have tapped another word that is associated with CRT, that is associated with Black people, because now they're talking about this wokeness.
Yes.
These are some dumb people, family. They don't have the capacity or the morality. But family, the other thing we have to realize is that Indo-Europeans have never been able to maintain a civilization more than 500 years.
Yes, yes.
If you want to go back to Cambyses and the Persians who invaded Kemet in 525 BC, Dr. Clark says that's really the sundown. It is when the sun set on an African Kush Kemet. 525 BC, give or take.
Give or take, yes.
By 332 BC, the Greeks came in and kicked the Persians out, who, by the way, are Iranians. Their civilization, the Persian civilization, only lasted a little over 180 years. And then the Greeks came in. And all this is happening in Africa. Every major civilization that comes to the world comes through Egypt. By 332, okay, the Greeks are in. By 30 BC, the Romans come in.
That's right.
So that's only a little over, 300 years.
Historical fact. Yes.
And then the Roman Empire from 30 BC, it started falling in the 300, 400 AD. Some people try to give it 500, but it was falling by 300 something AD. So now you're dealing with the Roman Empire lasting only a little over maybe 300-400 years. And then what happens? Europe goes into darkness.
Absolutely.
Until 711, when Africans come in. And from 711 until 1492, Africans rule Europe. And they give rebirth to Europe. It's called the Renaissance, rebirth.
That's it.
And now from 1492 until now, a little over 500 years, we got this. This started falling in 1865 in the United States at the Civil War. So the point that I'm making is that they have never been able to establish. The old kingdom of Kemet existed for 2,100 years, at least.
At least, brother, at least.
The Moors lasted for over 780 years.
At least.
And that was in Europe.
Absolutely.
West Africa. The settlements of Ouagadougou, which would become ancient Ghana, and then ancient Mali, and then ancient Songhai existed. And make no mistake about it, when Europe came into Africa, all of the civilizations of Africa didn't fall. Africa continued to flourish, and there are parts of Africa that still flourish to this day.
Absolutely.
It's just that they were ambushed, and they're trying to come up out of being knocked out when their attention wasn't paid. We have to get ourselves together, and it's up to us to make it happen.
So, brother, before I hand over to Lady Ma'at, just a quick question, my big brother, because you've run through history, you've given us everything already today. When the Greeks came into Africa, we know, and history backs up, that they sat at the feet of African teachers, African scribes, African priests, and they used to boast, and they wrote back in the early days, they used to have credit for having an African teacher. What would you say, brother? You may have touched on it already, but I just want to make it plain for those of us who are listening. What would you say was the major, how can I say, departure from African education in today what we got Western schooling? What facet, what did the Greeks do that changed it from its pure essence to what we have today? Or did it start from the Greeks changing, or did it start a bit later?
Well, it manifested itself in many different ways. But I'd like to go to the British Museum.
Woo! Come, bring it here, brother. Bring it here.
And I'd like to walk down one of the avenues of the museum where at the end is the Rosetta Stone. In the British Museum, when I first had the opportunity and the great pleasure of visiting my family in London, I did a tour of the British Museum, particularly the Shabaka Stone.
Yes.
That's where the Shabaka Stone is. But before I got to the Shabaka Stone, in the door that we went into, as we walked down in the museum, the Rosetta Stone is right at the end. And then we made a right, I believe, towards the Shabaka Stone.
That's right. Yes, you're correct.
Okay. The Rosetta Stone is a stone that has 3 different languages. On the top, it has hieroglyphs, or hieroglyphics. Under that comes the hieratic. And under that is what's called classic Greek.
Yes, sir.
That's not classic Greek. That's another African script that the Greeks adapted. That was the beginning of the downfall.
Okay, teach, brother.
And I'm going to tell you why right now. English is not a language.
Woo! No, brother, say that one more time. Say that one more time.
English is not, well, let me say this and then I'll say that again. Dr. Ivan Van Sertima tells us, in order to be a pure language, you must have a script specific to that language.
Yes, sir.
English uses Greek script.
Whoa.
Spanish is not a language. Spanish uses Greek script.
Yes, sir.
Romanian, Italian, German, they're not languages because they all use Greek script, not Spanish script, not English script, not French script, not any script to their language. They use Greek script. But if I just said that classical language became, that classical Greek became Middle Greek, became modern Greek.
Yes, sir.
The reality is when you write English language like Kabba, Khamenei, or the Investigator, Andrew Muhammad, that's not Greek script.
Yes, sir.
That's African script.
Woo! Hey. Yes, sir.
So you see the illusion?
Yes, sir.
Just the fact that we say, oh, that's Greek script. That's an illusion.
Wow.
There is no Greek script. And there's no such thing as Greek people. They don't exist. When you're dealing with the people such as Philip of Macedonia, his son Alexander, who came into Kemet, he was Macedonian. But Macedonians don't exist because they all come from the northern ice ages at one point in time. They're all the same people. It's an illusion. And again, I go back to my webinar because when I saw what was happening in Ukraine, I said, I got to do a series on who these people are to help us understand. The work of Dr. Sheikh Anta Diop tells us that there is a southern cradle, which is the original human family. And then these Africans migrate during a warming trend between two ice ages, the warm ice age, into what we call the 51st parallel or the zone of convergence, which cuts Ireland in half. It cuts UK in half. It goes across Holland, it goes across, and it becomes like a cap on the Earth's head. Yes. Called the Arctic Circle. Those Africans that were caught in that area, in order to survive the cold and the lack of sunlight, these Africans had to mutate. And they mutated because even now, Brother Andrew, we're doing it.
Yes.
I am not the melanated complexion that I'm going to be in August.
That's right.
We all, no matter how melanated we may be, in the cold climate, lack of sunlight, we lose melanation.
Yes,
even
sir.
Our hair changes. Even very curly, kinky hair relaxes in cold weather. Just like people of European descent who they say have straight hair, when summertime come, they got kinky hair too.
Yes.
But they don't call it kinky. Here's the illusion. They call it frizzy.
Yes.
And so therefore, you don't come to the scientific reality. In the presence of the sun, everybody's hair gets kinked. In the lack of the sun, everybody's hair relaxes.
Yes.
This is science.
Science.
This ain't personal. It's science.
Beautiful.
So that the illusion started from the moment they came out of the mountains, stole the knowledge they learned from Africans, and then erased our name and put their name, which now goes back to what I meant when I said there's really no such thing as an African-centered curriculum, because what Africans taught was a natural curriculum. It just so happened that the only people they were teaching were Africans. When Indo-Europeans came upon this knowledge, including in the East,
yes,
Buddha is not a short-statured, heavy-set, bald man sitting in the lotus position. The original Buddha is a black man.
Black man, fact.
With kink up on his head, kink knots on his head.
Fact.
In Vietnam, he's black. In
fact.
Cambodia. throughout Asia. In Japan, he's Black. That's the original Buddha. So what they did is they took our history, erased our names, put their names, and now we think we're learning their information.
Teach. And it's very important, brother. I mean, some of the core stuff you're going through right now, brother, is absolutely powerful. And you know, I know Lady Adele's waiting to come in, brother, and you know, I'm gonna keep my mouth shut. But brother, already what you're going into, brother, has been absolutely phenomenal. And the day that we can create, and I hope at one stage we can get to that discussion today, because you said that the educational system, and it's something that our sister Rosemary Campbell said last week, the way they test us and the way they educate us automatically goes against the way we think and our natural order. And this week, brother, at our academy, Lady Adele done a workshop. You see her right there in action. Lady Adele done a workshop with our senior children on how to study techniques, exam techniques, and learning techniques. And Professor Kabba, I wasn't in that particular workshop. I was doing another workshop at the same time. But brother, the way the students responded to this workshop, my own blood daughter contacted me just up to yesterday, and she said, Dad, I have never been in a class like that before in my life. She found the way that Lady Adele spoke about education and the natural order of education. My daughter saw it not as a class, but she saw it as one of the greatest motivational events of her life. Her mother stated she hasn't stopped studying since Lady Adele took that class. And is there a way, brother, that we could literally, I'm talking about the science of teaching education that will liberate the African mind? Do you think that's possible under Western schooling, or do you think, no, Andrew, you know what? It's imperative that we control the education system of our people. And I'll say that to you, and I'll leave you to answer that question. And Lady Adele, if you're listening, it's your time to come in and have that conversation with Professor Kabba. Thank you.
One of the things I developed in answer to your question was I have a webinar series. It comes out every Tuesday. Today, the class is on the brain and how the two hemispheres of the brain work. And I encourage us to go to my webinar. It's in the link in my bio. I put my Instagram, my website address up earlier, www.kabbakamene.com.
Mr. Samira's already just posted. As you're speaking, Samira's been posted as you're talking, brother. She's on it.
My Instagram page at Kabba Kamene. You can go into the link in my bio and you can download. You can register for the webinar. We already did number 40 yesterday. We've done 40 so far. And what I have done is I have separated the difference between teaching methodology and content materials. Teaching methodology is how you teach. Content material is what you teach. Methodology is as important, sometimes more important than what you teach. When you look at teaching methodologies, the brain, you know, like for instance, one of the things that we talked about yesterday about the left and the right hemisphere of the brain was, which is more important? There is something known as stereognosis, which means to know how, if you're right-handed, many people say that you are left brain dominant. They say if you're left-handed, normally you're right brain dominant, right hemisphere. Your left hemisphere is responsible for the analytical thoughts of your brain, which is like your mathematician or your scientist or that which reasons things out. The right side of your brain is where your musician lives, where your artist is, where your creative person is. The left side of your brain breaks things up into pieces, episodes. The right side of your brain looks at everything whole. It's like people say, I couldn't see the forest for the trees.
Yes.
Or I couldn't see the trees because of the forest. The whole brain sees the trees in the forest and knows that the forest are the trees. And so it is the bringing together of both hemispheres of the brain that judges how much of your brain you're using. We're caught up, and again, this is Western mentality. They say Albert Einstein, as brilliant as he was, only used 11% of his brain. That's nonsense. See, we're looking at things quantitatively. We're looking at numbers. How much of the brain do you use? That's not the question. The question is, how do you join both sides of your brain? For example, when I taught math to students, there were times that I would give them a homework assignment where I say, I want you to draw the answer. No, just don't solve 1 + 1 = 2.
I hear you, sir. I hear you.
That's the left side of your brain. But when I said to draw the math, that is when you have to cross over the part of your brain known as the corpus callosum into the right side of your brain, and you have to manifest math artistically as opposed to solving it as a problem.
That is good.
If you find that you carry your bags on your right side, start carrying your bags on your left side. Start using both sides of your hemisphere. Because when you call upon your various sides, you're really joining them together. So that as we move forward, and as we're looking at this, my Webinar series, I do things on multiple intelligences. I do things on Bloom's taxonomy, which is the categorization of knowledge and wisdom. We do presentations on the importance of artificial intelligence in the future. What we're doing right here, artificial intelligence, but the computer is based on the human brain.
Yes, sir.
Cameras are based on the human eye.
Absolutely, sir.
Earphones are based on your ears. And so what we have to begin to do is Africanize this. And what I've done is Africanize.
Yes, sir.
So in answer to your question, is it possible? Yes, it's possible. Not only is it possible, it's actually happening as we speak. We just got to do more of it.
Yes, sir.
And realize the illusion that we're living. And I tell people all the time, you know, people say, you know, I'm trying to get you to get out of the box. I'm not trying to get you out of the box. I'm trying to help you realize the box don't exist.
Yes.
And as long as I'm trying to get you out the box, I can't see you and you can't see me because one of us is in the box and one of us is outside the box. But the real question is, if I'm outside the box and you're inside the box, we're both in boxes. We're just in different boxes.
Yes, sir.
It's like the prisons. The guards are as much imprisoned as those who are imprisoned. You're just on the other side of the gate.
Yes. Fantastic. Lady Adele.
I'm here.
It's all yours, my queen.
So Professor Kabba, it's wonderful listening to everything you've said because I'm an educationalist myself for probably about 30 years. And what I'm just going to do, rather than ask questions, Professor, and I hope the family doesn't mind, I'm just going to throw some big concepts at you, really, just to get your feedback on them, if that's okay with you.
Fine.
But I just wanted to start by just saying, I wrote some notes down on some of the things you were saying, and just want to make 3 points, which is really about the British education system. So you were talking when you was at the very beginning, when you started the presentation, about how we were seen as very different when the education system within the Western society. And just to say that when I was in education in the 1970s, all children of Black heritage were graded on a grade of 1 to 5 on what they call the special educational needs register. And even someone like myself, who had one Black parent and one British parent and was born here, just because of that Black parent, I was classed as grade 5. So no matter where you were or where your history was from, any Black child or anybody from Black heritage had a label on them. So that was just something that was quite incredible. And also one thing as well, we've worked very hard in this country. We had Rosemary Campbell on last week. She created a program called Investigator in Diversity, where she was supporting young Black educationalists get into leadership. And there's many more of us now in leadership, but what has happened in the education system, above the heads now, is another layer of leadership. So there's another glass ceiling that we have to break through. And I find this as a pattern. Once we break a glass ceiling, another one is put above us. So that's something else I just wanted to share. And also you were speaking about testing. And I was just reading about Benjamin Bloom's on testing, and he says that testing is part of the experiment to locate each child's mental susceptibility as an official rating scale. So it's all about finding where are the children within the system as a part of maintaining the agenda. So these were just some points I picked up from what you were saying. So the battle is still on, really. That's what I'm saying. So I'm going to come now with my first concept that I'd like just ask you to speak a few moments on. I've got 3 of them.
But my sister, Lady Adele, may I just say one thing about that glass ceiling? It's an illusion.
Okay.
And for as long as we believe that glass ceiling is there, we'll always be under it.
Mm-hmm.
We already broke through. It goes back to my concept of the box. As long as we believe that you're thinking in the box and there are some people thinking outside of the box, both people are in a box. They're just in an outside box and an inside box. But when you realize there is no box, then everybody can see each other. There is no glass ceiling. There is no ceiling. And the reason why there is no ceiling is that it is just a place, it is just a boundary they have placed in order to put them above you. But when you realize they're not above you, when you realize the essence of who they really are not, it changes the entire relationship. And the reason why I say this to you is because I know what they do to you when they realize that you have not bought into the illusion. It's called benign neglect. They make believe you don't exist because they're afraid to encounter you. That's why they don't encounter me, because they know that they cannot tell me the things that they tell other people because I'm not there kissing the feet of their savior. That glass ceiling is an illusion. That's just a boundary they put up to make you think there's something you got to fight for.
So you saying that's quite important that you say that, because it's a common phrase that we use within education for our young people and for us as black leaders at whatever stage we are in the profession. So any educationalists out there, we've heard it from Professor Kabba, that phrase, breaking the glass ceiling, we're not to use it with our young people, we're not to use it with ourselves, because as you've said there, it keeps us within the box and we're forever climbing, and there'll always be another ceiling always put on top, so we will always feel inferior. And that will probably come back if we reach as far as my third concept that I want to ask you to speak about, which talks about the global majority versus the global minority. But my first one is really about the I call it the academization of Africanness. So we know that within education, the Europeans who have set up the education for us, for the whole system, they've been listening to us in that we've been arguing and fighting for having our Black history, our Black culture, our Black traditions told accurately and in the right way. But what has happened is we've allowed them to now go away and bring back our Africanness in their own definition, but we are now feeling we're feeling as if, right, you've got it right this time. And they may have got some parts of it right, but I'm sure a lot of it is still quite incorrect. So I just want you to talk a little bit to us about the fact that even with the changes in Black education and the academization of it, it's still very colonial. And how do we break away from that colonization of not just our education system, but also of the mind now? I don't know if I made that, if that was easy to understand. It's clear in my head.
And it's very clear in mine, because you see, my sister, Lady Adele, I've also gone through that process in my experience. And my thing is, we give them too much power and too much importance. I think that what they're doing with CRT is one of the greatest things that they could have done for us. It's time for us to teach our own children. I don't depend on the public school system. All three of our children, my biological children, they all went to the public school system. But each of my children realized that I was their teacher. I was sending you to school to learn a little bit of something, but also to socialize, to learn how to get along with other people. I have done staff development with teachers. People outside of our culture are not prepared to teach us our history. And a lot of times when we fight for our education, our history to go into the schools, we put our history and our legacy in the hands of people who defame it. And sometimes, as I said about methodology and content material, it can end up that you wish you had never put your legacy in their hands in the first place because they dirtied it. They can't even teach the children the subjects they went to school to learn how to teach. How they going to teach a subject they don't even know? They don't even know who they are. How are you going to teach me who I am? And this has been my struggle throughout my life and my career. You know, in algebra, you have equations. In fact, it is the story of Ma'at. That is algebra, which is the story of Ma'at. Balance, harmony, equal. Okay. What's on one side is on the other side. You have variables that solve your problem. And only those variables will solve your problem. I have let people outside of our culture know, you are not a variable in my problem. You're not going to solve my problem. When all is said and done, what Brother Muhammad said about his daughter in your class is all need to be said to understand the impact of what happens when Black folk teach Black folk. Okay, I don't need them. I don't want them. I'm not angry at them. And I am not saying that I cannot associate. I have met good people in all cultures. I don't speak in absolutes. But what I am saying now is that as a family, we as African people must close our ranks and teach our children. And we have to stop fighting these mindless battles, trying to get our legacy into a classroom where it would be dirtied in the first place. We must start our own programs. And this is what I'm doing. My Quibinars and my webinars are dedicated to the community. I am not interested in going. I've worked in boards of education around the country. I am not interested in talking to them. So I tell them all the time that, you know, that thing about you teaching my children, I'm not interested in you teaching my children. I don't care what you put in your curriculum, because when my child comes home, I'm going to teach them what they need to know. And here's another thing. Solar power is the future wealth of the planet. We should be teaching our children the fundamentals of solar power. That is the future wealth of the planet. The reason why Russia has such an impact in the world of Europe is because Russia supplies Europe with 40% of its energy. And that is what comes from the sun, which is energy. If Europe was on solar power, Russia would be in trouble because they would not depend on Russia for energy.
Anything, yeah.
And the other thing is we must create relationships with those countries, specifically Africa and South America and parts of Asia, where the sun shines the brightest. Because where the sun shines the brightest, the people are the most melanated, which means that the Creator has put our wealth in our backyard, but we don't realize how powerful it is. Do you know that they are buying parts of Sahara right now?
No,
China has the largest solar plant in the world.
Backside, backside. Look, brothers, are you listening to our Professor Kabba today? Drop some ones in the chat room, man. This is deep. Come on, Professor, teach.
All the subject areas. The 4 major areas is math, they say anyway, math, science, language arts, and social studies. We ought to have programs for our children that develop solar power using those 4 areas, with the complements of physical education class, art class, and all the other classes. Solar power is the future wealth of the planet. We're not educating our children for the future power of the planet. We're taking them through indoctrination, as the sister said earlier. Woo! It's a edu business.
And I would go as far as to say that it's not education at all, it's pure schooling, and schooling is a completely different strategy altogether to education, because you can learn things through education, but in a schooling system, it's designed specifically as a system to steer far away from what you do with that limited little bit of education that they give you. And I know Naim Akbar, he says, I'm just going to read a quote here. He says, in reality, ancient Kemetic, which is our African psychology, cannot be understood with Western methods. So if we allow the Western people to relook at our history and our culture so that they give it back to us in a better form, they cannot do that. A full appreciation of ancient Kemetic psychology must be done with an African mind. So everything you've said just there about we send our children to school to pick up the very little that they can, but the actual education and how to use what they learn has to be done away from that schooling system. So
education draws out of the student what they know. Schooling pushes into the student what they want them to know.
Yeah, and that's where the system is right now. So just moving on to my next one, Professor, I just wanted, you spoke about the situation with Russia and Ukraine. And so I just want to ask, we kind of seem to be waiting in the wings. Africa and South America and parts of Asia, we're kind of waiting in the wings, or in the wings of this European global affair between Russia and Ukraine and America and Europe. What can we be doing, or should we be doing, while our attention is focused there? It goes back to what you were saying about watch the virus, not the vaccine. So as we watch what's happening in Europe and these big superpowers, is there something that we can be doing as a diaspora globally, or in our small little communities, in our small nations, to take advantage of the attention being away from us?
Realize that the reason why that's going on is because of energy. Everybody's fighting for energy. We need to create a relationship with our brothers and sisters in Africa, in the Caribbean, and we have to teach our children solar power. I'll always go back to that. That's the future wealth of the planet. We have to teach them renewable energy. We have to teach them about nature, and we can start by just teaching them the parts of the sun. We can go into kindergarten and teach them about the parts of the sun. And we can have activities where we deal with solar power. There are, I know of a group in San Francisco that's teaching solar power to children, and they're creating solar panels in attache cases where they just open up the attache case and they put it and solar power. If we have to teach our children nuclear fusion as opposed to nuclear fission. Nuclear fission is what blows things up. Nuclear fusion is what brings things together. What we have to be doing right now is to realize that when we were on the plantations, we watched the plantation owners fighting themselves. And in the United States, it ended up as the Civil War. This is nothing but a European Civil War. We've watched this over and over and over again. And what the community, what the Black community used to say is, what Massa up to now? They're still fighting each other. We have a term in the United States called the Hatfields and the Mccoys. And they do nothing but fight each other all day long. That's their purpose, is to fight each other. That's all they know. They were fighting each other in the ice mountains long before they ever knew there were African people to the south. We have to be getting ourselves together right now. And the number one thing we have to do is not what they do. We must stop fighting amongst ourselves.
Yes.
Everywhere that I see our history, where they are able to overtake us, be it in Kush Kemet, the old kingdom fell because we were fighting amongst ourselves. That allowed them to come in, take advantage.
So this kind of leads me to my next point, Professor Kabba. So last week we had Rosemary Campbell Stevens on the show. She's an educationalist from Britain, now based back in Jamaica. And she coined the phrase for us, global majority, because she was talking about the debilitating implication of accepting and referring to ourselves as the global minority, as the minority ethnic group. And so the question I'm just asking really is that just to hear you comment about that, really. It's not really a question, but this global majority that we are, because we as people of color, there's more of us around the world than there are of the Europeans, so they technically are the minority, but we've fallen and allowed ourselves to be called the minority, and it weakens us and who we are. Just want to hear your opinions on those phrases, and is it something we should really be turning to? Because we have a phrase here called BAME, Black and Minority Ethnic, that we use in this country. And should we really be standing up and saying we're not using that anymore? And if we are a global majority, how do we start coming together, even in our own backyard, even here in London, with the different groups of religion or gangs or ideology and philosophy? Just to hear you talk about that part of our journey.
I understand what the term is, but there is no minority and majority. There is only one human family. And then you have mutants.
Okay.
There is no minority and majority. Do you know in the United States, they are now using the term the majority minority.
Oh gosh.
They can't get family. You have to understand the spiritual and psychological inferiority of the mutations and what happened in their brains. They operate through great fear and struggle. And the cornerstone to humanity's problem is ignorance. Ignorance gives birth to fear, false evidence appearing real, and denial. And fear and denial give birth to all the isms that create schisms. The mutation of the human family. This is another point that I make in my webinar, that there is no such thing as a European race. There is only one race, and that's the human race. In this human race traveling around the world, being impacted by the sun or the lack of the sun, in order to adapt to its environment, it had to physiologically and morphologically change itself. And in science, we look at Glosier's law, Bergman's law, and Allen's law. And those three laws talk about what happened to the organism when they move away from the sun or are in the presence of the sun. We have to change the words that we use. Global, yes, because there is only one people on the planet. There's only one human race. You know, if somebody from let's say another planet came down to Earth and observed us, they would think that we were one of the most incompetent, irreverent group of people they had ever met in their life.
Mm.
What we hear us fighting about amongst ourselves as a human family, with all the great things we could be doing to make this earth prosperous for all of us, how ignorant it is to fight like this. And it all comes from insecurity, feelings of inferiority. Because you see, if you that superior, you don't have to deny me the right to read or to write. You don't have to deny me access to anything, because your superiority would make you get it no matter what. The fact that you've got to put roadblocks, glass ceilings in my way only proves that you're inferior to me, and you're afraid that if you allow me to act equally with you, I will surpass you. And the reality of it is, and I'm gonna say this, I want to be careful, Black folk are superior to white people. Not because we're Black, but because of the hell you've created for us. The fact that we could find heaven in that hell and still excel. Lady Adele, and to the family, to Brother Muhammad, the fact that we could be on this program right now shows a sense of superiority, not against other people, but against those demons within us. We are, the way they treated us, and when you see them kissing, you know, I got to go back to that scene where you see the African peoples kissing that white Jesus, who is a statue. He's not even human. Think of that psychology. Think of what they must feel about themselves. You must have pity for them. For you to ever see your glory in someone else that don't even look like you. Even if it were Black, you're still giving glory to something outside of yourself and not realizing that each and every one of us is the creator having a human experience. If you want to kiss your savior, kiss yourself. And so we have got to understand that the language that they have been given, that we have been given, limits our ability. The sky is not the limit. We tell our children, oh, the sky is the limit. No, you can go beyond the sky. The sky is not the limit. You have no limits. To say that a human has limits is to say the universe is limited. And the universe is everything.
Lovely.
I hope I answered that question, because we as an African people, I as an African American, we have the term now foundational Black American that's been used. I am a foundational Black American. I'm very proud of my African American culture, and I support my people and have supported my people all of my life, but never at the expense of another African. I am a foundational Black American, but being a foundational Black American.
Just to stop you there, how are the Americans defining the foundational part?
The concept of people whose ancestors were enslaved in the 13 colonies.
Right. Okay.
That's foundational Black American, so to speak. But foundational Black American, we also know that Africans, Just like my sister Marie Charles, who I know has come to your platform, who I've known for quite a while. And when I visited Birmingham, I had the pleasure of meeting her. She is unearthing the Africanness of the United Kingdom, of Ireland, of Europe. And just like you have foundational British, if you want to call them that, who are Black. The first people in UK were Black.
Yes.
Okay, they weren't who you looking at there. They come from the ice mountains, the people that you're looking at now. The foundational British, the foundational Irish, the foundational Germans, the foundational Swedes. It is the people that are grounded in the culture of that geographic area. And what I say to people is that if you are from Jamaica, you should be looking out for your Jamaican people. If you are from Haiti, you should be looking out for your brothers and sisters from Haiti. If you are from the United States, you should be looking out, because the stronger we are as a people where we are, the stronger Pan-African movement we will become.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I am a foundational Black American who is thoroughly Pan-African. It's Pan-African or perish.
Yes.
When I see you, Lady Adele, I see my family. When I see Brother Muhammad, I see my family.
Yeah. And that will unite us. That is what will start uniting us globally, because you're right. Yes. Unless we can do it at home first, that foundational stage at home first, we're not going to be successful. It'll be dangerous for us to reach out. So it's to get that bit first. And then when we reach out, we'll be able to do that with true purpose and lasting purpose.
And that is the exact truth. And you can't unite with another person if you haven't united with yourself. And that's my message when I do my presentation this Saturday at One Africa United. That's my message. You cannot know others, even your own people. You can't know others if you don't know yourself.
Yeah.
Self-knowledge is what you build. And that's why I wrote the book, Spirituality Before Religion, was for us to ground ourselves in understanding who Lady Adele is, not as a person of your culture, but who are you?
Yeah.
Who is Brother Andrew Muhammad? Who is Sister, I hope I say her name right, Samira? Samira. Who are you? As an individual human, as the creator having a human experience. Then once you know you, then you can know me. You can't love me if you don't love yourself. That's the building block. Self-knowledge and then social knowledge.
Yes. So when you think of you talk about the foundational Black American, the foundational bit starts with you, and then the foundation extends to your people within America, and then the foundation extends a layer deeper across diaspora across the world. It's like those. I do a big session on trees. It's like those roots connecting.
That's it.
Professor Kabba, I've got one more question or one more kind of idea to throw at you. And then I know there's going to be people in the audience, in the family, who may want to ask you some questions. And I want to give them the opportunity to do that. So I guess my last thing really is when I look at education, and I look at, we spend big money in America and England to go through schooling, university. We already struggled to get there. It's the Black African, the Black Caribbean are still the lowest in school, still the lowest in university, and still the highest dropout rates. But we're coming through and we're getting ourselves into some very good and powerful positions. However, for all that education, we are still not able to build the economics for self. We're still not able to be to treating and getting beyond some of the medical issues that are particular to us as a people. We're still not able to drive and change the education in a way that it really empowers us. So for all of that education that further education, we're still not driving forward. Now, it could be because obstacles are put in our way, or is it because there's something we are not grasping yet to make that change? Are we still in fear? Are the obstacles stopping us? are we going to be in a position where we can make those changes and heal ourselves medically and grow ourselves economically and develop this philosophy and psychology that really makes that change?
We're doing it as we speak, my sister lady. We're doing it as we speak. And although this may not rest well, or maybe people won't agree, I believe we're in a better position today than we've ever been in our history over the past 400 to 500 years. I believe we're already doing it as we speak.
Mm-hmm.
The closer you get to the Creator, the closer the devil will get to you.
Yes, I've written that.
The more help people are giving you is because they realize that you're in heaven. And when I say that, I mean it in the sense that we are all, and that's why they call this movement the woke movement, because they're trying to dirty it. They're trying to make it so people say, oh no, I'm not woke. What does woke mean? We use that term jargon. They took it and they created an entire theme around it. It's not about being woke. It's about knowing who you are. And that's why they deny you knowledge of self.
Yeah.
Because you know, the bottom line, you know, to me, the cornerstone is self-knowledge. That is what we're looking at, self-knowledge. When you know who you are. And that's why my first license is in early childhood, the 4 and 5 year olds, the 6-year-olds, the 7-year-olds, because I wanted to get to them when they were young. I wanted to instill in them the pride, and I receive emails and DMs even to this day from students that I had. They didn't know me as Kabba. They knew me as Booker T. Coleman Jr. And they've seen Hidden Colors, or they've seen things that I've done on YouTube, and they say, you look like my kindergarten teacher I had, and they're in their 40s. And they tell me things that they remember. And I'm sure, my sister, Lady Adele, there are students that have come back to you over your phenomenal career that have told you something that is worth all the money in the world.
Yes.
You made a difference in my life.
Yes.
I remember you. You made a difference in my life. That is a priceless gift given to teachers who have dedicated their life to the children.
Absolutely.
That feeling that you get when they come and they tell you that, it just changes your whole day and days to come. And the more that come to you and remind you of something that you may have said that you just said, because that's who Lady Adele is. Yes. You didn't say, okay, I'm gonna teach you something real strong. It was just something that you said to them that made a difference in their life. And you say, I didn't even realize that I was doing something.
Absolutely.
I was just talking to you because you came to me or something happened and I said this.
And that's where we can all be teachers. So you don't have to be an educationalist. It's where you can be a parent or a doctor or a supermarket person. We are all teachers in that way. And it's knowing ourselves and having the right and purpose and having a love for our people, that a young person can come back to any one of us in our various roles and say that very same statement. It's not exclusive to teachers at all.
Yeah, and that's how I felt towards Professor John Henry Clark, who I considered to be my teacher. And one day I told him, I said, you know, Professor Clark, I could never repay you for what you did for me. And he said, you're right, because you ain't got that much money.
Oh.
But he said, you can pay me back by doing for others what I've done for you. And that's what I dedicated my life to, is to pay Professor Clark back for what he did for me.
That gives you the purpose, and we see the purpose with you on this platform and in your writings, and that makes the difference to your life as well. Because often, as an educationalist, when you who makes a difference to your own life, I always find it's the young people who make the difference to my life. So, Professor Kabba, I'm going to hand back over to Brother Andrew, but before I go, all of us have taken something different away. So my 3 things that I've taken away: critical is to know self on many different levels. The second is to remember that we are people of the sun. And you've spoken about, if we are people of the sun, then we must understand and harness the sun. And the third one is that there is no limit, because we are the creator having a human experience. And if I was to sum up tonight from what you've said and our conversation now, I will be taken away those three things. And without those three things, then I will be caught in a box seeking to break a glass ceiling. And that is, there are no limits. And so I want to say thank you very much for those three powerful lessons. Of course, there's things that that we know, we all know them, we all say them as a mantra, but sometimes it takes someone like yourself to come back and really put it back into perspective, into context, because it's so easy to default back to our hundreds of years of programming. And so it's just wonderful and refreshing to know it is just a programming, and we have the choice to stay in it or get out. So for me, I'm out of it today, and I will hold on to those three things to keep me out. So thank you very much.
And please, my sister, if I may tell you what I learned from you.
Right, okay.
I just wish that I had been a student in your class when I was a child.
Woo!
Thank you.
You are a true teacher, because the greatest teachers are the greatest students.
Yes.
You are a phenomenal student. You're a phenomenal teacher.
Thank you very
And
much.
I thank you for all that you're doing for our family,
Yes.
where you are.
Yes.
And also, just to continue with Dr. Clark, I've changed it. What I do not do for my ancestors. I do for the children. What I do through my ancestors,
Okay.
for the children. And I don't pay back, I pay forward.
Woo!
I love that. I've taken that one as well.
Oh, God.
No pay back, pay forward. And these are powerful quotes and affirmations and reminders. And just that phrase alone, Professor Kabba, just when I say that, do through the ancestors for the children, pay back, pay forward, just that phrase will trigger my memory to this whole session that we've gone through today. So no matter amount of notes, we forget them and we lose them, but just knowing that that one liner there is enough to trigger my memory to everything, all the conversation that we've had today, because that is within us. Sometimes we lose it, it gets buried, but it's there. So thank you very much for that. And the other big quote that you made, of course, just for families listening out there, is the one about we are the creator having a human experience. And what is the last one? The closer you get to the creator, the greater the devil will get to you. So those are three powerful quotes that I'll be writing up on my mantra board. Thank you very much, Professor. Thank you.
No doubt, no doubt. And you know, from an educational perspective, what you've just described is one of my webinars where I talk about the two important areas of the brain that all teachers impact. Mm-hmm. And that is the amygdala, which is the house of fear, and the hippocampus, which is your long-term memory. In your quote that you just said, it will trigger your memory. I was talking to your hippocampus. I was talking to your long-term memory. And if more of us as adults talk to our children's long-term memory, they would then remember all the wonderful things that we've taught them.
Yeah.
Thank you, my sister. Thank you for all that you
brother.
do.
Thank you.
And in Kush Kemet, we say mer.
Mer.
Mer is a word that is indescribable. Love, respect, honor, and integrity. It's indescribable. But once you say mer, you immediately, you know, young people say, I feel you. That's what mer is. Mer is, I feel you.
That's another one I'm taking. Dr. Kabba, next time I meet you on stage, you're going to be, and I repeat these all back to you, you're going to be thinking you're listening to a replay of yourself, because I've got all of those powerful little things that we can take away and reflect on that will make the biggest change. It's not the facts and the dates and the figures, but it's those little phrases that you've said that forces reflection and meditation. You can't just walk away with do through the ancestors for the children, pay back, don't pay back, pay forward. You can't just walk away with that. You've got to internalize that, and it's got to make sense.
Yes.
So what I might do after this is write some of those quotes up in the chat, Brother Andrew, so others
Absolutely.
and can walk away with them also. We'll have mini Professor Kabbas walking around London and England, and I know overseas too.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
This has been absolutely phenomenal tonight. Phenomenal tonight. Professor Kabba, you know, one of my weaknesses that you're going to put me down for, Professor Kabba, I have to say this. I can't tell you enough on so many occasions how much I love you, brother. You're going to get, no, I have to say this, brother. You're going to get sick and tired of me saying this to you, but every time I listen to you, I don't want you to take this as rhetoric. I don't want you to think that I'm saying this because we've got a big platform. And brother, every time you teach and the way you answer questions and your unique way of deciphering a question and giving it back to the questioner, brother, I just love you again and again and again and again. And I want you to be filled with this love, brother, because you're a very, very special man. Very, very, very special man. Sister Samira, are you there? I mean, we've only got 10 minutes left. I don't want to take up too much of Professor Kabba's time. So I know you had comments that were made and maybe a few questions. Professor Kabba, if I could be in a position of imposing you and asking you, because you've got so many people that have asked questions and comments, and I would like to open the door just for 5 minutes for anyone who would just like to say how they felt about tonight listening to you. I would like to do that just for 5 minutes, and 5 minutes of Samira giving you the feedback on the chat line and maybe asking a few questions. So brothers and sisters, if you like to feedback from yourself to Professor Kabba tonight, raise your hand in the chat room. Just put a raised hand. And if time permits, I will give you a chance to speak to Professor Kabba, because I know I've just fallen in love with him again and again and again. But I would like him to hear from yourself how you felt about tonight. So I'm going to shut my mouth. Samira, have that 5-minute conversation with Professor Kabba on the feedback and any questions.
Thank you so much, Brother Andrew. Well, firstly, greetings, Hotep, Professor Kabba. Beyond amazing. And what I loved was the fact that it was to teach is to learn and to learn is to teach. And you really brought that to the fore, and the importance, oh, greetings, Sister Dr. Elaine, and the importance of us being able to exchange that information to therefore then pay forward. That was key. And I really hope that the family recognize that someone who is so esteemed in their profession and so highly regarded in their profession, as Lady Adele, is still a student. Please understand that we never stop learning as long as we are learning the right knowledge. And I think that that's key for everyone to take away, because sometimes we'll look at someone like Lady Adele and think she's reached the heights, but she is also a student, as we saw last week with her mentor, Sister Marva, and as well as her mentor, Sister Rosemary. She was again mentored as we were by the great Professor Kabba. So I just want everyone to really take that away. Before I say anything, we've got Sister Dr. Elaine, so I feel that I would be ill-mannered if I didn't greet her and see if there was a few words that she would like to share with us.
Hello there to everyone. I'm just speechless. Hello, Baba Kabba. Hello, Sister Samira and Brother Andrew. I just want to say, Sani Banani, I'm ready to take out Brother Kabba. You have exceeded the true essence of what it means to be an African for me. And you have set me on fire. I will be listening to you on Saturday, and I just want to thank you for who you are, for the love and the wisdom and the divine presence that you share with all of us so freely. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you from the bottom of my heart. I love you, I see you, and I bow to you.
Love it. That's a goddess talking to a god there. Wow, Dr. Elaine. I mean, these are giants we've got on the platform. Sorry, Samira.
Oh, don't apologize. I always love to see Dr. Elaine, and I thought it important that someone of her stature who, you know, has graced our platform came on. So I'm not going to apologize for hearing from her. And I don't think anyone else would. There are so many comments, but what I would like to do, if I may, is spend my time to ask some pertinent questions, because I know that Brother Andrew will hopefully allow some of our family to share their thoughts and feelings with you, if that's okay, Professor.
That is fine.
Perfect. So in terms of some key questions, there was one from Sister Amma, who has asked if you could please just finish speaking or explaining to us the significance of the Rosetta Stone at the British Museum. So if you can just share with us, please.
The Rosetta Stone basically was a stone found in a place called Rosetta, and it was what assisted in the so-called translation and transliteration of Kush Kemet hieroglyphics, or Medu Neter, as we called it, sacred script. And to do that, when Europe went in mid-1700s and they came upon this stone, it's what cracked the code. And what cracked the code was the fact that there were scholars in Europe that understood classical Greek, which was the third and bottom language that told the story. And then what they did is they then transliterated and took symbol for symbol, concept for concept, from what they understood in classical Greek up to the hieratic, which was a scriptic form of the first language on top, which was hieroglyphics. And so their understanding of classical Greek helped them understand the hieratic script, helped them to understand the Medu Neter, or the hieroglyphics. So that began to crack the code of the Rosetta Stone. But the point that I was making, it's like, for instance, if you had on top, let's just say that you had on top, let's use the King's English, okay? And then you had what's considered to be standard British English second. And then you had the language spoken by Africans. See, in America, we call it Ebonics. It could be also Ebonics with you also, but it is the language that Africans took from English and applied it to their knowledge and their way of talking. All three languages are the same. They're just different forms of the same language. There is no such thing as classical Greek. Classical Greek is another script that the Greeks adapted in order to express their thoughts and their philosophy. That script, the ABCs, can be found in the Medu Neter. If you took the vulture, which is the symbol of the A in Medu Neter, Ak. If you took the symbol and looked inside that vulture, you would see the letter A.
Okay.
So what they said was, instead of me having to draw a vulture every time, I'm going to do a script. So that'll shorten that I don't have to keep drawing these pictographs. And so then they had another script. They had a Demotic script, and then they had this script, which is called Classical Greek. That's not Classical Greek. That's another African script. And that's where the Romans adapted that script. And that is the script when the Roman Empire went around the world. That's what you call the Romance language. It doesn't mean Romance. It is ROMAN''S, the Romans language.
Understood. And is that then, would you say that Latin is again a derivative? It is not its own language.
That's
you
right.
say it's a, understood,
Yes.
Makes sense.
And the Romans were so backwards, they tried to take letters and make them numbers. Like M, D, C, V, I. These folk don't know what they're doing. And what concerns me is not them. What concerns me is we following them.
Yes, that makes sense. That makes sense. I'm with you. So I hope, Amma, that answers your question that you posed there. Another question that has come through from two people in terms of any books that you would please recommend to the family so that we can learn about solar power, and also what was the other one? It was solar power, because two people have asked about books. Solar power, and that captures the topic of tonight's seminar.
Please go to my webinar, my website, www.kabbakamene.com, KABAKAMENE. I have a free e-course and study guide. My study guide has all of the books, the themes. It's 44 pages. It's free. It is the single most important work I've done. Dr. Clark used to say, you may not get to your destination, but if you leave the proper roadmap, those that come behind you will. My study guide is my roadmap of where I'm headed in all the work that I'm doing. And so my books are listed there. I encourage you, family. I'm on Instagram. I use it as my community bulletin board. I call it the meeting at the African Square. Go to my webinar. Go to my webinars. It's in the link in my bio, and it's also in my catalog list on my website. Everything that we did tonight, I do extensively there. It's laid out real clear there, because it's not just about me giving you a list of books. It's about conceptual themes. So that, for instance, with Shabaka Stone, my third book, what I tell people to do is there are three major books. The first book that I ask you to read, and I give to you in chronological order. The first book is Stolen Legacy, written by Dr. George G.M. James, but not the whole book. Just go to chapter 8, page 139 to 151, where he talks about the Shabaka Stone, the rewritten version of the Memphite text. I then encourage you to go to Egypt Revisited and go to 2 chapters in there. One chapter is by Jacques Sabibsi, and the other is by Dr. Theophile Obenga, who, by the way, will be at the One Africa conference this weekend. And then the third book is written by Dr. Sheikh Anta Diop, chapter 17, Doesn't African Philosophy Exist? Civilization or Barbarism. The reason why I'm saying this to you, my sister, is because we can give books, but it's the themes you have to go after. Because in the themes, it means that all of the books I listed are great books to read. But as it relates to the concept I'm talking about, these chapters pertain directly to it. So I don't want you to spend a lot of time reading the whole book when I would rather you focus in on a theme. The same thing with the origin of the human family in Africa. I give you a sequential theme of books to read various chapters. There are some books I just tell you to read 2 pages, because what I'm trying to get to is in those 2 pages. You don't have to read the whole book. Dr. Clark used to always tell me every book was not written with the express intention of reading it cover to cover. There are some books that there's a chapter you should read. Sometimes there's been like a paragraph that was important. The problem is that because we're so book oriented, we moved away from conceptual themes. So I encourage you to go to my website, get my study guide. It has everything that you need to understand where I am headed in this work that I'm doing as an educator. Because if you know you, then you can teach children about them. I'm gonna turn out all the lights. You can't see anything. And all of a sudden, you find the light switch. You turn the light on. You see the TV. You see the table. You see the chairs. You see everything in the room. My question to you is, did all those things appear in the room when you turned your light on? No, they were always there. Your light just wasn't on. The role of the adult in a child's life, the role of a teacher in a student's life is to assist them, to facilitate them finding the light switch of their mind, to turn it on, to know that they always knew it. Everybody on this platform today, an hour before you came on, you came knowing everything that I've said to you. I did not teach you anything you did not know. I Africanly educated you, and I drew out of you the fact that you always knew it.
Brother.
Thank you.
Amazing. I'm literally left speechless, Samira. I am literally, every time I hear this brother speak, I am left literally speechless. Okay, we got one or two people.
Thank you, Sister Samara.
No, thank you.
Dua, eternal thanks in the Kush
I was going to ask, what does that mean?
DUA, I'm a teacher, so I got to spell.
Yes,
DUA,
please.
DUAU. When you add a U to the end of the word, it becomes plural. Like we add S that makes things plural. When you add U in Medunetta, it makes it plural. So dua is thank you. Dua'u is eternal, plural thank you. Eternal thank you for all time and space. Thank you, my sister. I appreciate all that you do.
Thank you.
Love.
Thank you. Family, can we drop
Family.
some ones? Can we
Come
drop
on,
some
man.
ones?
Master teacher
Oh
in
my
the house.
goodness. And my hand is
Master
hurting. I'm trying to
teacher
write
in the
all the
house.
notes. and
Master
notes to
teacher
the
in the
family as
house.
well.
Hi, can I actually say something to Professor Kabba?
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, it's Nubian Princess, also known as Sandra.
Hello, my sister.
Whilst you were going through your lecture, I was sending messages to my family on the WhatsApp group. I have 3 young grandchildren who are under 2 years old. So the question to you is, how do I, as a Nana, try and educate my grandchildren on the solar systems that you have mentioned on numerous occasions? I've heard you talk about, which is the future of this planet.
I would recommend children, the younger you go, the more tactile they are, the more they depend on their senses. Smell, taste, touch, see, feel, think, because thought is a sense. We have 6 senses, not 5. Thinking is a sense. We also have 3 eyes. We have 3 ears.
Victor?
We have 3 nostrils. We have
2
brains and 2 skins. Those extra ones that I talked about, the 3rd eye is the spiritual eye. When Grandma said, you see what I'm talking about? She wasn't talking about your 2 physical eyes. She was talking about your spiritual eye. When she said, do you hear what I'm talking about? She wasn't talking about your 2 ears. She was talking about your spiritual ear. When you feel something that did not touch you, that's your 2nd skin. And the same thing goes with all the other senses. But with children, what you want to do is expose them to the solar system. So you might want to get a, you can go to a planetarium, or you can go online and order things that they can touch and feel. Something, they have big sun. It could be a ball. And you tell them sun, yellow. You can talk to them, because what you're doing is that they are picking up your feelings. So the younger you go, the more you want them to be able to touch things and see things. And because a lot of times we get things and we say, don't touch, don't touch. Well, why did you give it? Yeah, they need to touch. So they have rubber balls, they have rubber planets, and you can teach them that. You can talk to them. The mobiles that we have with infants that hang over and they have music. Well, that music should be African music. And those mobiles should be ankhs hanging from the mobile. They should be jed columns. They should be the neteru, or the essences, or what's called, the symbols like Heru and Osar. And And as the music is going around, that's their ear. As they're looking at the different mobile things that are in there, forget about the bears and the dogs. We need to be putting images of Africa. So from the moment they're born, they're picking up these concepts.
Beautiful.
And so I would recommend that you go and get things that you can talk to them, read them books, get a very simple book on the sun and read them the book on the sun. Put those words in their mind. No matter how young they are, they're still listening and they're picking up words, and then ask them, what did I just say? Can you say that? Sun, say that, sun, earth, things like that. But what I'm really getting at is the younger they are, the more tactile they are. And so you want to get things that excite their senses.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Brian Beno Smith. Brother Brian, unmute yourself, King.
Beno.
Sorry, my King.
Santa Banana Hidden Truth family. Thank you once again, Brother Andrew, Sister Samara, Lady Maat, Adele. Baba Kabba, you already know what it is. You know how I feel about you.
Brother Beno.
You already know. You already know. I just, any chance and any opportunity, obviously, if I get a chance to see you, be around you on this virtual world, and pretty soon it's going to be in person one way or another. And I just, as Philippe would say, I just got to big up you all the time, because you have changed my life in nothing but positive ways. And how I think, how I perceive the world, and I could never repay you for it. And as Baba Clark told you, the only thing I can do is just share it. And the word is myrrh, and that's what I gotta say right now. And just to be on a selfish note, we are having webinar on Sunday, correct?
Next Sunday, the Sunday after that.
Okay, we're not going to do it the first Sunday because of the conference.
No,
Okay.
We're going to do, yeah, because there's so much going on. I didn't want to interfere with what was going on, so I postponed the next webinar on the Grand Unified Theory. We're going to be looking at the Grand Unified Theory as it relates to the Shabaka Stone, and that's going to be next weekend. I think it's the 8th of May.
Okay, cool. Because I know I hadn't seen my email yet, and I figured, I said, with you being at the conference and then the weekend, I already know it's one love, it's Pan-Africanism or perish, and we do this thing together. And that's the one thing that I wanted, and that's why I'm here at the Hidden Truth, is because of you and Baba James, who was on earlier. Yes, that's why I'm with the Hidden Truth, and with Dr. Tata, because we're all brothers and sisters. We are all mothers and fathers. We are all cousins. We are all aunts and uncles, and only but ourselves can free our minds. And I just love you, Baba. And dua ooh, Uncle Job Sanet, Ma'at Hotep. One love.
One love, one love. Because of time, brothers and sisters, I'm going to bring in one or two, just one, maybe one extra one. But Brother Brian, it's always a pleasure to hear you, man. And I'm so glad that you know, the way you've expressed yourself to our master teacher tonight, because, I know Professor Kabba knows the value that he has for all of us around the world, and that we value him so much. But we should never get tired of telling this king how much we love him, how much we cherish him. Hebrew Queen, can you unmic yourself? Hebrew Queen.
Hi, good evening. Good evening. First of all, I just wanted to say thank you so much for a wonderful, enlightening, educational, inspiring, motivational. I'm lost with words. I'm here in Nottingham, totally lost in Nottingham. Just like the sister said earlier, was about I've come from a teaching background, educational background, and I also have 2 grandchildren and my children. Only this morning, I sent a link to my daughter, and she turned and says, "Mom, why are you sending me this?" I said, "It's talk about education of self-care." My children are Afro-Caribbean, human, we are from the human race, but they are lacking so much of self-identity. and they now have children. For me, one of the things I did ask, and you have questioned that, is obviously for me is getting educational packs and do homeschooling, because for me, our children, the street crimes, the knife crimes, what's happening across our city, because the young people are lost their identity. And this is coming from, you know, my children are, I'm the first generation here, second and third generation are totally loss of self-identity because of how they've been educated in the British system. So for me, it's like, I'm just overwhelmed with going back. You know, I'm going to profess I was baptized under the white Christian philosophy, and having some really bad experience, even with my brothers, why I made that choice. But again, even my soul, my spirit do not feel comfortable within the white-led Christianity. So I'm trying to find myself, and what you said, we are the creator. And, you know, for me, that it just opened up to know that I am the creator. Why should I be honoring and praising another human being or another deity or goddess when it's in myself? And like you're saying, so many of us as Black race, we are so fragmented. We don't love ourselves, and we fight so much. We deceive each other so much. But, you know, I just, you know, I'm just in awe, because I love, you know, people say to me, why am I so inquisitive? Because my spirit yearns for truth. And on this platform, I normally work a Tuesday evening, and now I'm going to change my shifts. So I work morning so I can get more to educate myself. I'm literally going to change my shift so I can get to educate myself in my 60s, so I can then pass that on to those who want to know and want to hear. My children are totally, you know, they're just lost. And, you know, what is happening on our streets is an indication of they have lost their self-identity.
Beautiful. Hebrew Queen, Professor Kabba, what would you say back to our beautiful sister from Nottingham?
I grew up Roman Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
I was a choir boy, altar boy. Hebrew Queen, can I tell you, I even wanted to be a priest. But the reality of it is that there was always something that was deeper inside of me, searching for answers that they could not answer, they being the church, they being people of European descent. And what's important for us is I had a friend from Puerto Rico growing up in the project where I grew up here in New York. And his family practiced Santeria. And I used to attend celebrations, Las Siete Potencias, the 7 powers, Espiritismo. And I saw the 7 African deities, the Orishas, Jemaja, Oshun. So my introduction to Africa was not through history. My introduction to Africa was through spirituality. And that is why I wrote my book, Spirituality Before Religions. Because I wanted to show that every religion, from agnostic to Zoroastrian, A to Z, Buddha, Christianity, whatever it is, I can show it to you in the walls of the papyri of Kush Kemet in Africa. I didn't write the book to insult any religions. That's not my purpose.
Absolutely.
I don't disrespect religions, because the very fact that I know their scripture came from Africa, if I love Africa, I have to love. I don't have a problem with the religions. I have a problem with the Indo-European interpretations of the religions. Okay? Any religion that does not honor the woman and put that woman beside the man on the throne,
teach,
I can't handle. To have a God, you got to have a goddess.
Teach.
There is no spiritual system that is one gender alone. And if the creator, as all books say, created us in his image, then she must have also been looking in the mirror too, because there's a lot of women that are represented here. And we have got to come and we have to redefine for ourselves who we are. The second day of Kwanzaa, Kujichagulia, self-determination. Who are you? And I don't need anybody else to tell me who I am. Power is the ability to define someone's reality and have that person accept their definition as if it were their own. I define for me who I am. You define for you who you are. These young brothers and sisters that I pass on the street all the time, just say hello to them, recognize them. That's what respect means. Ra means to look in a spiritual light. Spect means to look. Respect means to look again in a spiritual light. Look to our children, respect them. You don't have to lecture them. Just acknowledge that they exist. That is why Ralph Ellison wrote the book, The Invisible Man. We are an invisible people, but it is us who is the only thing people see. Our culture is all across the globe. Everything that they created came from us. And they ain't got no shame in their game to give other people credit for what they did. The biggest thing, they talked about, here in the United States, they talked about integration. We didn't want to integrate with them. That's not what we were fighting for. We were fighting for desegregation. But the moment that we could sit next to them in a restaurant or have a room in a hotel with them, all of a sudden they started seeing that as us integrating with them. We didn't want to integrate with them. We just wanted to be able to sit and eat a meal. If we were hungry on the road, we wanted the right to be able to sit. We wanted the right to be able to drink water from a water fountain, no matter who it was. There wasn't no white water fountain and black water fountain. If we needed to go to the bathroom, we wanted to go to the bathroom where everybody was going. We didn't want to integrate with them. We wanted to desegregate the system so that we could live our life as human beings. They interpreted as we were trying to integrate with them. We didn't want to integrate with them. We don't want to move into their neighborhoods. We wanted our own thing. And the whole time that they're telling you that you're trying to integrate with them, they are moving into your neighborhood in regentrification. Tell me that that's not a sense of projection. The whole time they telling you that you're trying to integrate with them, they're trying to integrate with you. Accusing you of trying to integrate with them as they move into your neighborhood. Brothers and sisters, we have to get ourselves together. If our mantra when we wake up in the morning should be, if it is to be, it's up to me. It is up to us to do what's necessary. If we have a problem with the young brothers and sisters in the street, then we need to address them. We don't have to start lecturing them. Just recognize them. Let them know that we respect them, that we see them, we acknowledge you, we approve you. We may not approve of how you acted, but you're a living being and you're our children and we love you and we want the best for you. You are the best, you deserve the best. Some of the greatest chemists in the world are the ones selling cocaine. Some of the greatest businessmen are the numbers runners. We just took our wisdom, knowledge, and genius to another level. And then what did they do? They stole what we did. We invented hockey. And now we're trying to break into everything that they do. We invented ball games. Now all of a sudden. So family, also what I'd like to do is send my regards out to my sister, Dr. Marie Charles. And I'd like to encourage you to get her magazine, MFIT. I know, brother, she's been on your program before.
Absolutely.
Okay, support that sister. She's doing phenomenal work for brothers and sisters there in UK and around the world. She has done phenomenal work, and I just encourage you to support her. She is of a sense of what is going on in UK and in Europe. And also I ask for you to consider looking at my books. I'm doing very well in UK in terms of sales. And so I appreciate you all for all the support that you give me. And I encourage you to support those that are going to be at the One Africa conference this weekend. You can also register on my website and also on my Instagram page, if you would like to register for the conference. We have to do this ourselves, family. If it is to be, it's up to we. We just got to understand that. I don't depend on anybody outside of myself for what I should be doing for myself.
Absolutely. Brothers and sisters, please, 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 Professor Kabba, Professor Kabba, Professor Kabba, we salute you, my king. It's been too long, brother, that you've not been on this platform, man. So I thank Allah for you. Brothers and sisters, you are on with the hidden truth. If you felt my king, Professor Kabba, if you felt my king, put down chicken buck foot tonight. Please, if you felt my king, put down some chicken buck foot, rice and peas and a buffalo soldier. Come on. We just had the master teacher with us, man. And don't forget, let's support the brother, not just with the spirit, because I could tell tonight we had nearly 500 on computers. I can't imagine how many were on the phones and on iPads. I'll get the count tomorrow morning. But if we can all purchase his books, if we can all make sure that we show that literally, man, not just because we're supporting him, it's because there is so much value in the teachings of his books and his studies, man. But we're going to make sure this brother is not even thinking about money. He's got too much money to be to be worried about anything, man. He can then dedicate his heart, soul, and mind to the liberation, the salvation, and the education of the people that he's been sent to deliver. Brothers and sisters, man, my God, get his books. This is only one or two of them. There's more. Get onto his webinars. Get onto his website. Get onto his study pack. This is a brother that Brother Andrew Muhammad 1000% endorses day and night. Brothers and sisters, please, let's don't forget we had another legend on the platform tonight. We had the great Professor Smalls, man. Come on, Professor James Small. And the both of them, the gods are going to be on the One African Power and Unity. Sister Samira, can you please put the link for that again? I know you've put it down several times, sister. But if you loved what Professor Kabba and if you loved what Brother Professor J. Small said tonight, you can have them plus more on Saturday and Sunday this week. We are linking the UK, the Caribbean, and the rest of Europe. We want you to all link, those of you on the platform, into the headquarters on Saturday and Sunday, Detroit City. Absolutely imperative, brothers and sisters. Get your tickets tonight. Let's not forget our brother Des was with us tonight. One of the, I believe, the director of I See You, an award-winning documentary that won awards in Hollywood, won awards in the Cannes Film Festival, won awards worldwide. He was on the platform tonight, and he has offered us 2 tickets. 2 tickets. Brothers and sisters, this is the competition. Remember, the event is sold out. The red carpet event on this week is sold out. Hidden Truth has got 2 tickets to give away tonight. 2 tickets can be given away tonight, brothers and sisters. The question is this. Professor Kabba told us tonight that he met Malcolm X and he became a bodyguard to Malcolm X's sister, if I heard him correctly. Not Professor Kabba, sorry. Professor James Small. Sorry, Samira. Professor James Small said he became a bodyguard, personal bodyguard to Malcolm X's sister. What was the name of the sister? First 2 answers, correct answers, will win 2 tickets to the ICU event. Who was the first one? Kevin. I think, is it Kevin Mohammed? Is that Kevin Mohammed?
Yes, Kevin Mohammed was first.
Kevin Mohammed's not playing, brother. Samira, if you could send him my email address, send Kevin Mohammed my email address. I will get make sure your tickets will be at the door for the grand opening of this documentary, which is already sold out. You've got the last 2 tickets. Samira, Sister Samira, if you could please send in the tickets, my email address, and I'll arrange with Brother Des to make sure. Des, are you still with us? I'm not even sure whether Des is still with us, the director of the movie. If Des is with us, if you can let us. Are you still there, brother?
I'm still here. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic, brother. We got a winner for tonight's special golden tickets to your documentary. Again, brother, just quickly, what awards has this documentary won?
It's won Cannes World Film Festival, Hollywood Gold Awards, Infinity Film Festival, and Global Indie nomination. We're waiting for 2 more, the British Film Institute, and 1 more I can't remember the name of, but the first one that I mentioned is quite a big one, and we're nominated for that. We're just waiting to see where we come.
Fantastic. We love you, my king. As I said, Kevin Mohammed has just won the last 2 tickets. If you make a note of his name, I'll drop you an email, brother, and we'll arrange to make sure that the tickets are probably going to be left at the door for him.
Yep. Yeah, I'll just have his name. I'll have his name down, so it'll be good.
Okay, I'll make sure I drop an email to you. Okay, King. But Des, we thank you for your time tonight, brother. And I tell you, Des, I can't tell you what to do in your career, brother, because you're a world, you're winning world awards. But you see this man there, Professor Kabba. We need a documentary on this brother, man. Believe me, man. We need a documentary on this king.
For real, man.
He's a legend. He's a legend. All right, brothers and sisters, moving on. Next week, we've got the great Black history man, Robin Walker. He's going to be dealing with subject matter, the new developments in Black history. Make sure you're on, brothers and sisters. Let's support our own as well in the UK. And I want to thank all of you, man. It's been so awesome. It's been so beautiful. It's been so crazy and spiritual. So I greet you in the greeting words of peace. We say in one of our tongues, which is Arabic, Assalamu alaikum. And I now hand over to our queen, Sister Samira, who, remember, she doesn't play music, she prays music, man. Licking shot from Babylon, but foot on the backside. Sister Samira, are you there? You don't know every single time.
I'm trying to post links. Oh, dear Lord. I am the human octopus, I swear.
Sister, I know in 2 weeks' time, we've got a very important session on the Hidden Truth, where yourself and Sister Danielle's going to be doing a phenomenal historical breakdown on self-healing. Could you just quickly touch on that, sis?
I can, and thank you so much, Brother Andrew. So brothers and sisters, family, what we're going to be looking to